What's going on, Predators? So today we're going to be building some more arrows, and I'm going to take you along for the ride. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do further. So the tools we're going to need for this setup are going to be a Dremel. Alright, I have a cutting wheel on the end of the Dremel here. Okay, that's just going to help me obviously cut the arrows. Okay. Next I need the arrows. I've got 6 of the Victory VAP TKO here. I'm going to need my inserts and outserts. I got the Ethics Archery. These are 1.165 insert and 0.234 outsert. They are 90 to 110 grains. 6 pack of these. We need an arrow spinner. Need safety glasses because safety first. And I'm going to need some hot glue, hot melt, or super glue if you choose to. I like using hot melt, or in this case that blue one back there is cool melt. I like using this stuff because I think it just works better. It works just fine from where I'm at, and also, like, let's say I get my insert or something lodged in a tree trunk or something during Total Archery Challenge, I can still pull on it and I can remove the arrow out of that. It's not going to damage the arrow shaft like super glue will. So if you're okay with that and okay with the risk involved with putting the risk of your arrow shaft, I should say, in putting that in there, then that's perfectly fine. You do you, man. But I'm going to use this one today. There's going to be a review coming soon of several different types of hot melt and how they work. You don't usually need a Dremel for this, but for what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking these Ethics Archery outsert insert system here and trimming them down. So this is 90 to 110 grains. I'm going to be trimming these down to 90. And so we got this is a aluminum insert and a stainless steel outsert, which is funny because that's the exact opposite of what I had on my last arrows, which, if I can find it over here, was the opposite. It was a stainless steel insert with an aluminum outsert. If you're having a choice here between these, if you can get both stainless steel, that's a great option. The inserts, I don't really have a problem with them being aluminum because I'm trying to match a certain weight here. But the outserts, I highly recommend you get stainless steel outserts on here because, you know, they just end up being a lot more durable. But B, also, you can kind of polish them to a nice finish. I don't know if you can see the difference on the camera in this, but these basically are polished out to a nice finish here, which makes them really slick, which, you know, I feel, but I want to do another video testing it. I feel it's going to make it penetrate a lot easier too. So anyways, but so I've already got some of these arrows built. These are the Victory VAP TKO, and they are the V1 or Elite series in a 300 spine. I had to get a few more of them because I already kind of broke 1 or 2 of them, and I just wanted to have a little bit of extra. So I got 6 more here. Unfortunately, for this price, I could only get the ones that are pre-fletched. I don't care for the pre-fletched ones. I'm a lot more bigger fan of things like this right here. This is the easy veins over here, and these are the Zinger fletches. We'll be doing some more reviews of these coming up pretty soon, but I tend to like these a lot better. So anyways, review coming soon of these guys. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut all these fletches off. Alright, I'm going to do that here with just a knife. I have this knife, it's got a nice upward sweeping bevel on it, so I'm not cutting down into my arrow, rather I'm kind of cutting up and away from it as I slide through. So if I can do this right, there we go. I'm just going to cut these off. Be very careful when you're doing this. Obviously you don't want to cut towards yourself like this. You want to cut away from yourself. Also, do not want to cut the shaft of your arrow. I found sometimes this knife's actually kind of dull. I should probably sharpen it, but so start by removing that. Oops. Okay. All right. Again, this knife is not super sharp. I actually worry about using a sharp knife whenever I'm doing this, because I'm worried that I'm just gonna slice right into the shaft of the arrow, which can damage the arrow. And probably not something you want to shoot as a damaged arrow, because that could easily blow up on you somehow. If you create a weak point in the arrow, you know, it's completely possible the thing could just blow up on you. Okay, I do need to sharpen this knife a little bit, so we'll be back in just a minute. So now that I've sharpened my knife up a little bit here, oh yeah, it works a little bit better. I don't want it like razor sharp. I know usually you want to work with a nice sharp knife, but I'm just worried about gouging into this. Alright, so again, I'm just nice and easy with it. But I want to do this in a really easy fashion too. I can also use this. This is called Uncure. Basically what it does is it is a debonder, so it'll like make that glue come off of your arrow very easily. Okay, so I'm going to start with this on all of these arrows here. Because again, I don't want these almost called them shit blazers. Blazers aren't a crappy vein. They're really good actually, and they last a long time. I just, for the fact of like refletching and you know, controlling the weight of the arrow and everything, I much prefer these other veins, especially the easy veins. They just make life so much better, and I think they work better too. So they're much lighter. So if you're building a high FOC arrow, I really recommend you go with the easy veins. Check those out. If you want an American-made alternative, those are also very good. I would go with the, I almost forgot the name, the Zinger Fletches. They're also very good. I haven't had many issues with those. They just released their version 2, which are a lot more kind of like the easy veins. Instead of it being a purely 3D printed vein, they've moved on and they've actually started molding them. So they work a little bit better. They're a lot more durable than their previous versions and everything. So something to check out there. So basically this debonder, this Uncure here, this is also really good for if you've got glue on your fingers. Makes it come off real easy. But yeah, works really well for that. Alright, the next thing I need to do while I'm letting that sit just a little bit is I need to clean out these shafts. I had these cut 28.5 inches here. The guy that cut them for me happened to run something through there to help clean them, so he did a good job. Now these are so small, it's almost better just to use this paper towel as it is. Doesn't hurt to get it wet either. So I'm going to go ahead and just dip this in here. Alright, kind of run that in there, pull it out, and just make sure I clean everything really good. I got a little bit of carbon dust out of that one. If there's too much carbon dust in there, what's going to happen is basically it's just going to make it to where your hot melt and super glue and all that stuff won't bond very well to it. A lot of times I found that it's kind of an extra step. Not a bad idea to ever do it, because you know, you kind of want to just do it right the first time. But if you don't do it, it's not going to break anything. It's just it's a good idea to just go ahead and do it. So let's see if our debonder is working. Not really. So I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of slice these off, just like the other ones. Okay. Taking that off. Again, careful not to cut the shaft. Alright. Okay, so now I'm going to finish these. I'm just going to kind of, whenever if I'm trying to shave off, like see this little piece right here, if I'm trying to shave that off, I'm going to kind of just easily chip at it with the knife, like I'm just kind of, as if I were giving it a light shaving or something like that. Very, very light, because I don't want to damage the shaft again, right? And this is why I use the easy veins as well, is because, you know, gluing stuff to the shaft like this, it's a more permanent solution, but it damages your shaft. I mean, and like, as long as you're going to have that arrow, or hope to have that arrow, you know, I don't want to have any kind of markings or things like that on the shaft if I don't have to. And every time you glue something on there, it's going to damage the shaft. With some wraps and things like that, you end up rewrapping and redoing them again because the wrap came off, and so then you can't just, like, unless you're re-gluing the wrap back to the arrow, you know, you're kind of, again, putting in an instance where you're going to damage that. With the easy vanes, with the zinger vanes, or zinger fletches, I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. It's just a non-existent point. And again, the great thing about them as well is that they're much lighter and equally as durable as something like these. Well, maybe not quite as durable as the blazer vanes, but you know, I don't have to glue them to the shaft of my arrow, so that's always a plus. Alright, so I'm going to go work on these a little more, and then I'll come back to you in just a minute whenever they're all finished. Alright, I just wanted to bring up a point real quick, and that is, I'm almost done with this arrow here. And now that I've got this here, I can still feel it's kind of rough, like it's got little pieces of fletching and glue stuck on it. And so what I like to do here now is I like to take the blade and I put it at this angle, right? But I don't push down on it. I kind of just scrape it as if I'm just trying to scrape all that glue off, right? And I'm not digging down. I'm just hitting the top layer. Yeah, anyways, just being very gentle. You can see I'm not right now, I'm not even holding the knife by the handle, I'm holding it by the blade, so I can just kind of scrape this off. And again, what I want is just an arrow shaft that is clean, no residue, no extra fletching plastic on there. Rub it in because it'll get any kind of little residue of the glue off and clean this arrow shaft really well. Now I can see I'll put the debonder on there. I'm almost good, but then I got one little spot right here where I still got some plastic left on there, so I'm gonna scratch that off. There we go. You see, even when I'm scratching with it, whenever I got it wet, there's just like barely the slightest amount of carbon dust being created there. Again, it's mostly just glue, but it's not enough to damage the shaft or anything of the sort. So, okay, and again, once I've got that off there, it looks pretty good. I'm almost there. This debonder usually takes just a minute to work. It smells really gross too, but it's interesting because it makes a kind of a chemical reaction because I can feel it warming up. And again, now I just use a piece of paper towel here and I just clean that shaft, and there we go. Got it all good. Oh, nope, see a tiny little spot right there. A little piece of plastic left. If there's plastic, that means there's glue. Don't like that. Okay, cool. There's one down. I just got to do the other 5. Now that I got all the arrows nice and clean, I got all the fletches off. So these are nice clean arrow shafts. There's no gashes or anything in them. They look great. Yeah. All right, next what we're gonna do is we're gonna spin them. I just wanna see if there's any of these shafts that do not spin properly. Okay, so I've got my arrow spinner here. And first thing I'm gonna do is put it on there and spin it. You can see bare shaft on this one. Beautifully, no issues. Usually the bare shafts will spin great. No issues. Okay. But if you do have any issues, what I'll usually do is there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can either, if this end of the arrow starts wobbling when you spin it, before you can go cut your arrows, what you can do is you can flip it. And if this end spins good, then I would put the insert on this end and then cut from the other end, or cut from the end that wobbles. Vice versa, if you know this, that way whenever you cut from that end, hopefully you'll cut the wobble out of it and it'll run fine. This is a very underrated practice though, because I think you should spin every arrow you make. If you go to a bow shop and they are not spinning your arrows before they cut them and before they finish building them, they're not doing you any favors, okay? All right, so all the arrow shafts by themselves spin great. So let's pull these out. So again, these are the Ethics Archery insert system here. So get a little close up here. Again, these are an aluminum insert. Get my scale. Okay. All right. Okay. So by itself, the insert portion weighs in at 40 grains, and this weighs in at 70 grains, right? So 110 grains. Like exactly, that's okay. So it's like really, really, really close. So what I'm going to do is this is 100, or so this is by itself 40 grains. I'm going to trim it down so it's 40, 30, 20. So I'm going to cut it off right at this point right here. And then basically what that's going to do is it's going to put me at a decent FOC. I think it's going to be around 15% FOC, as I've done with my other builds. Arrow's going to fly great. And also it's going to put the FOC in a good point, but it's also going to make the arrow overall a little bit lighter, so that I can launch it a little bit faster down range. I found that this is just a kind of a balance for me. This is where it makes my arrows run right about 480 grains. I still have all of my Victory VAP SS here. These are running a lot heavier, just a different arrow build. But I've got all these over here on the side. So anyways, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and do this. A couple ways you can do it. You can kind of just snap it off. What I like to do is just kind of cut it with my Dremel here. So there we go. Hang on, I almost forgot safety glasses. So I make sure my Dremel's off the end of the table here. So basically I just enhance that notch there, and then I can just snap it. Okay, and I'll weigh it out. Okay, so there we go. So this is going to be 20 grains right there. So I can change it a little bit. All the other ones I was building, just trying to fine tune it here. All the other ones I was building were about 20.4. Okay, so we've got 20.6, so I'm going to shave it a little bit more off. So really close, basically 20 grains, okay? Take an arrow shaft, I'm going to slide this in here. Make sure it fits good. I'm going to spin it around, look for that little gap in there, make sure everything is good. I'm going to spin it with the insert in there, okay? Watch for any wobbling, which my whole thing is wobbling, so that's a good point. So this, if I just spin it like that, you see this whole thing kind of wobbles a little bit. So twist it and make sure you got a good setting on there, and then push down on this whenever you're spinning. Looks good to me. Okay. So now we're going to go into the gluing. Okay, so I've got my hot melt here. Just knock my arrow in there. Got my 3D printed suppressor in the way. Legal in Texas. All right. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn my torch on. Okay. Very careful. I don't need a lot of flame coming out of here. Okay. I'm going to melt my hot melt. Tilt this up a little bit so you can see. So just melting my hot melt. Okay. Then I get my insert here. Okay. Hit a little bit with that just to warm it up as well. Make the pores open up so it's going to accept the hot melt really well. And in one of my last videos, somebody commented, "How much hot melt do you use?" Yes, 100%. I used, way more hot melt than I need to. So you can see I got this thing completely covered in hot melt. And I just heat it up again in the flame. Get it on there and twist and press. Now I take it. Oops. Put it in the light apparently. I get to take it and I just dunk it. It's going to cool it off just to make sure that that does not do any damage to my arrow shaft, because prolonged heat can damage the arrow shaft, and I'll actually show you an example of that. So this right here was the first arrow I tried to build from this batch, and you can see the end of it here, it buckled. And so basically what happened is the glue that holds this weave and this everything of this fiber, or the carbon together, the heat, there was too much heat in it that gave way, and this whole thing buckled. So So you can see that the carbon started coming off, and now this shaft is no good. Let me spin it for you real quick so I can demonstrate. Whenever it spins here, see how much it wobbles? Hopefully you can see that in this little Garmin Verb here, but yeah, that's no good. Can't use that shaft anymore. I probably could. I would be fine with it if it were, you know, if I could trim it down and I shot, you know, like a 28-inch draw, and so I could shoot, you know, like 27, 26-inch arrows. I could chop that off and make it work, but I do not, so I am not going to. All right. So next here we got, like I said, we got that spun. It looks really good. Okay. And then next one I do is I got to fit the shaft on here, okay, or the sleeve on here. One thing I want you to note is that whenever I put this on here by itself, it doesn't go all the way. It stops right at the arrow shaft. When you're using these ethics archery things, this is a common thing. They want this to fit tight, right? And so sometimes they get a little too tight on it. Like that will not go over there whatsoever. If I tried to put something in here like a broadhead or a field tip, it's just not going to go in there because it can't reach the threads on the insert. So what do? These are the two. So I was using this because it was just all I had, but I went to the store because I decided that was too aggressive for me. This is what I used to like using. I usually use this is a 180 grit and this is a 400 grit. Apparently I'd run out of it. So here's what I do. I basically just get a sheet of this. I start with 180 grit. Finish with the 400, right? So again, what I can do, a couple ways I can do this is either I can sand it like this, you know, just going at it here. Okay. And this is going to make it to where it's like a lot smoother. It's not going to dig in as much. Okay. Other thing you can do is you can just hold it in your hand like this and just twist it. Okay. Either way, don't want to go too far up the shaft because you want to go just enough that you know your insert's going to be on there good. Okay. So with that, clean it off. All right, looking pretty good. Now I'm going to switch over to the 400. I'm just going to put it on there, back and forth. Hold this a little straighter. All right. All right, so that's looking pretty good. The point is too is it's nice and smooth. Okay. So I'll take an insert. Okay. Got my insert. Gonna slide it on and check it. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Maybe a little bit more here with the 400. And these inserts being you know, made out of stainless steel, it's going to really reinforce the whole shaft tip of the arrow, so everything's going to be nice and strong. And we'll just get a little dip there. Check it again. Okay, I think that's going to be pretty good. I just want to really make sure it's on there, because if I get these Outserts if I get them too tight, I'll never get these things off. I'll damage the arrow trying to get them off. So again, I'm just taking a very fine layer off the outside of the arrow here so I can make sure it slides on easy, clean, and we're good to go. All right, so again, I'm going to go ahead and heat this up. All right, touching it, letting that heat transfer through it. I'm not getting it so hot. You can see I'm still holding it with my fingers. I'm not getting it hot enough to burn my fingers. I just want it to expand that metal a little bit. And then let's try this again. All right, dip it in the water. Okay, let's try that out. Let's see if that fits. I'm gonna check and look kind of down there, make sure it's all the way in. Let's check it by screwing a broadhead in. Okay, and I can make sure it's snug down real tight by putting a broadhead on there or a field tip. The field tips I'm going to be using, these are 125 grain Ethics Archery field tips. All right. So again, you can check it with this. And yeah, that's good. Nice and tight. I can get the threads all the way down there, and that's what we're left with right there. So nice and tight, very durable. Got the shaft and everything on there. The last step, and this is just something that's kind of unique that I do, is I like to polish my arrow tips, okay? So this is not necessary, but again, I like to do this because I think it makes the arrows, I think it makes the arrows penetrate a little bit better. But so again, we got a before here. Let's run it over this. By the way, this is just a polishing compound that I bought. You can get these anywhere. They're pretty much all the same. You get these at Harbor Freight tools. A little dip. I want to keep it cool. I don't want it to get too hot. Wipe it off. That's pretty good. I think I'm going to use the other polishing compound too. I've got a blue polishing compound, which I think works a little better. Put that real shiny shine on it. Again, this does heat up the arrow shaft, so I want to be over the insert, so I want to be sure that I'm dipping it. And there we go. Look at that polished finish there. So again, I'm going to compare this to what I had before. And you can see that blinging, but you can see the difference here. Same thing, but look how polished that is and how clean that is. And that is just slicker than butter, man. It's slicker than grease lightning. That is good. So that's something I do to all my arrows, is I make sure I polish them at the end. So here's an older one that's been shot a bunch, and you can still see it holds that polish pretty good. So new one I just did. Here's the older one. So that polish finish stays really well. No issues there. So all right, so moving on, let's go ahead and repeat this a bunch more times. So again, repeat the steps. Got the insert here. All right, we're just going to run through it again a little faster. So safety glasses on. Okay, just gonna etch that and then bend it. Didn't do it enough. You can also clip these if you got a really strong pair of pliers or some wire cutters. I just like using a Dremel because afterwards I can follow it up with a little extra polishing if I need to. I can also put this in my vise and break it off that way. Lots of ways to do it. All right, so I'm looking for about 20.6 to 20.8. So still 21, so I'm gonna take it and polish, kind of fine tune the end. All right, still at 20.8. I think I'll take it down to 20.6. Okay, so I'm just kind of taking it around the edge here like this. I'm not going flat. I'm kind of just taking it around the edge because I can take off a little bit more material that way, a little bit easier. Yeah, 20.6, 20.8. I'm good with that. All right. Now we get our hot melt. Okay. Again, I'm just going to heat this up. All right. Rub that all over. Actually, let me get it warm first. I usually put this in the torch before I rub the hot melt on it because I just want it to be all about the same temperature. If I open the pores up on the metal a little bit, my thoughts are that the hot melt will get in there a little better. Probably not 100% true, but I try to anyways. Alright, so I got my bottle of water ready. So again, put it back in the fire to melt the melt. This stuff stays melted pretty good time, which is great. Push hard all the way down, and then dip it. Okay? And again, what this is doing, Melting it on there. Whenever I push, it's pushing all the excess out of here. That's why I say you can never put too much hot melt on there. Okay, put it out, and then now it's good. Okay, I got a nice clean line. This little donut, like I say, is usually around the, after I push it all out and I cool it, all that little donut right there is usually around the outside edge. I just kind of peel that off, and we're nice and clean. Okay, now I'm going to check for the spin. So I can see over here, spins beautifully. I like it. Okay, so next step, sanding, right? Same thing over again. Got my 180 grit here. I'm gonna stand here and just hold it. We spin it. Now we got the 400 grit. Sweat my butt off in my garage. Building some arrows, man. All day's work, okay? So I'm just sliding the thing back and forth here, rolling the arrow back and forth. I've never broken an arrow at the tip with it. I've broken an arrow here at the shaft, but I've never broken one at the tip with the Ethics archery inserts in there. And I've hit rocks, I've hit animals, I've hit the dirt, hit a lot of things, and still, you want a durable outsert insert system, this is going to be your best bet. Okay. Okay. Getting close. It's almost over that lip. Look at that beauty. Alright guys, so we got all of our inserts and our field points in here. You can see we got them beautiful and blinging. Did a nice polish job on these. Polishing is not something you have to do, and if you don't have a grinder like me, you can easily just as much use a polishing bit with a Dremel, and again the same polishing compound will work. But yeah, like I said, these look nice and beautiful. They're on there very securely, not going anywhere. So, and you might be thinking, okay, I don't need mine to look pretty, but you know, I think this is going to aid in penetration as well. Just like polishing your parts of your gun before you assemble them, you know, it's going to make everything run smoothly even without lubrication. So next on, we're going to put the Fletchings on there. So I've got a few different Fletchings I've got here from Easy Veins. See, I've already used some of these. These are the 4-fletched. These are left turning, and then basically this is them. These are micro Fletchings. Okay, these are a lightweight version, and they are super lightweight. So just to show you here, One of these weighs 11, nope, sorry, under 11 grains. Under 11 grains. That's as much as 2 of the fletches without the glue from the blazer vanes. So a 4 fletch with a, basically what it works out to be essentially a wrap here, is less than 2 blazer vanes, okay? We've got some other ones here. These are more of like a target vane. These are a 3 fletch, 65 ultralight, size 14, okay? And so basically you can see these have a nice helical twist on them, okay? They are 3 fletch. I'm curious to try these out. Then we've got over here, we've got a 4 fletch L1. Let's see, these are also size 14. These are for mine. I think I might try these out. I like these. These are almost the same shape as what we have with the blazer vanes and almost the same size here. You can see that profile. Got a little bit different offset on it, so they've kind of got a little bit more of a, I guess you call that a shield cut, I'm not sure. But instead of it coming all the way down, you've got a little bit of a space in the back here where it's flat. So there's those there. And then we've got the 3 fletch 75. So again, these are another kind of target style vane here, okay? So what's the way these? So this is the 3FS75. Oops. I'll have to call Brendan and ask him a little bit more about his sizing scheme, but this is a like a 3-inch fletch, okay? And this shield cut here, which this is I think is what you call a shield cut. I'm not too good on terminology. So that is 27 grains for a 3-inch. Alright guys, I'm done sweating in the garage for right now, but this arrow build video is done. Again, we've got all these easy vanes coming on here, and we're going to be testing these out soon, so stay tuned for some of the next videos where we test out the hunting vanes versus the more of a target vane here. We're going to test them out and see how everything flies and if there's a difference and all that jazz. So thanks a lot guys for tuning in, and as always, keep defying the odds.